Hi, do you like making Christmas cards and sending them to your friends and family? I know that I do. Hi, I'm Beverly, and this is Pain and Simple Makes. I'm so glad you're here with me today. So, making handmade greeting cards has been something that I have enjoyed ever since I started making paper crafts, and I think it's because it was one of my first paper crafts, right? I especially enjoy making handmade Christmas cards. So today I've got a tutorial for you on how to make this card right here. This is a very simple card. It's basically 3 layers, well maybe 4. I used a green cardstock as my base, and I layered it with some black, and then I put some scrapbooking paper on, and then the banner, I guess we could call this the 4th layer, was a complimentary piece of scrapbook paper, and then I just added a little bow. So this is one version of this card, but you can also make another version, and I have that here. We still have the same number of pieces basically, but I got rid of that black layer and I put 2 different types of Christmas oriented scrapbook paper. You can see that this is similar to the one that I had on the other card. So these are very simple. I hope you stick around, watch the whole video. You can see how easy it is to make these, and I'd love for you to share them on my Pain and Simple Makes Facebook page or on my blog. If you like the video, please click like and share it and subscribe to my channel. Thanks so much. To get started, we need to cut our paper to size. And while I'm using green cardstock as my base, you don't have to use green. You can use whatever color you want. You can use red, gold, white, whatever you'd like. But the base is actually 8.5 by 5.5. So you can take an 8.5 by 11 sheet of cardstock and cut it in half at that 5.5 mark, and you'll be good to go for your base. And I'm using my handy dandy Fiskars cutter. It just seems to work so much better, and honestly I can do it quicker than I can with my cutting machine. So once you have your base pieces cut, you need to go ahead and fold them. I'm using a bone folder, but you can use whatever you have. An old credit card works well, anything with a hard edge. So I am just folding those cards in half that I cut so that I can get a nice fold, a nice crisp fold. And it'll be that base that we'll work from. So I'm just making sure that the edges line up, and then I'm using that bone folder to crease, to make that crease, to make that fold. So you'll want to do this on all your base pieces. Alright, so my second layer, I use black, and this is a 12 by 12 sheet of black cardstock that I have in my supplies. So this layer needs to be just a little bit smaller than the front of your card. So if my base is 8.5 by 5.5 and I fold it, then that means that I've got a 4 1/4 by 5.5 piece. So I need to make this black layer 4 by 5 1/4 inches. And if you can't remember these measurements, no worries, because I have a tutorial with the written instructions on my website. So just visit beverlypayne.com to get those. Alright, so once you have your second layer cut, then it's time to put the accent layer, or that third layer, on there. And so this is a piece of scrapbook paper that I've had, and it's actually looks like a vintage a sheet of vintage Christmas carols. And so I've got like the First Noel, Away in the Manger, Hark the Herald Angels Sing, Silent Night. So we're talking about Christmas carols like that. And so I'm just going to cut this up and use this as my accent piece, and that's the third layer. So this layer needs to be slightly smaller than that black layer. So I'm going to cut it at 3.75 inches by 5 inches. Now, you don't have to use music. I just happen to have this in my supplies and thought it would be a nice card face. But you can use whatever Christmas themed paper that you might have. With something like this, you've got to make sure you get the cut in the right place. I was about to cut that upside down. And I also cut some banners, and you can see those there by my cards. So I just had some Christmas themed paper from, I think it was from a Christmas pad of paper that I got. Actually, I think I purchased it last year. It's kind of rustic looking, and the colors seem to go well with that sheet music. So I just cut them, I think they're about 3/4 of an inch by 3 inches, or 3/4 of an inch by 4 inch. I did vary the length a little bit, and I just cut a point on them because they're just going to be a banner. Alright, so I'm using these adhesive squares to attach my second layer, that black cardstock, onto my base, and I'm just eyeballing it to line it up. There should just be a slight, you should just be able to see a slight green border around that piece of black cardstock. And I'm going to do the same thing now with my accent piece. So I'm just going to add some of these adhesive squares to the four corners of this sheet. These adhesive squares are also some things that, or an item that I've had in my stash for a while. I actually think I got it from a garage sale. And they work really well, and I like them, but it takes a while to put them on a piece of paper, I think. I think double-sided tape would be a lot quicker, but this is definitely a lot more economical than double-sided tape. And you could, of course, use glue if you wanted to. So again, this sheet should be just slightly smaller than the black cardstock, so you should have a border, a small border around the sheet music layer. Alright, so now we've got our three main layers put together. So I'm going to use some foam dots on the back of the banners, the arrows. And this is, again, to provide dimension and to I guess just give a little more accent to the card, a little more embellishment. So you can see that I've got foam squares there. It just raises it a hair off of the surface of the card. And I'm just going to put this at the very top, lining it up with the top side and the fold side. So I'm taking some jute twine to form some bows. If you don't have any twine like this, you can use yarn, or you can use some thin ribbon. Whatever you have to form a bow would work. So I'm cutting these strips about 12 inches long, and that's just a good length for me to work with for a small bow like this. If you might could get away with less than that. Because I do trim away just a little bit, but I find it easier if I start with a longer piece. And you can form your bow however you want to. I think I'm just going to do a regular bow, like tying your shoe. And the jute sometimes is thin enough it's a little difficult to work with, but that came together pretty well. Yeah. So I forgot to tell you, you probably need to be heating up your hot glue gun. You know, it's hard for me to do a project without using some hot glue. So I'm just going to put a couple of dots of hot glue on the back of that twine. And now I'm just going to affix it to the top of the banner over in the corner. And that's that for the outside of the card. The only thing you have to do now is to put a sentiment on the inside, and you can write it or stamp it. And I did 6 quick cards. Hope you enjoyed this project. Thanks.